Army's football team led by Jeff Monken. Jeff is somebody that I know very well professionally, not personally, but very well professionally. Jeff and I have competed against each other. The late 90s when I was at Hofstra, he was at Georgia Southern. The early 2000s, he was at Navy and I was at Delaware. And then when I was at Rutgers and he was at Navy. So we've met on a few different occasions at a few different schools, and I've always been impressed with how the offenses that he's been associated with have run. He's a direct disciple from the Paul Johnson coaching tree, so we got a pretty good idea what we're going to get, and we see it on film. And as I said in the opening, it's a tremendous challenge, and we're looking forward to it. Questions?
Was it particularly tough preparing for Army this late in the season without a bye for so long, and then obviously not having a bye a week before or a week after? Is it challenging to face them in week 11 or 12?
It is. It's something that you have to map out before the season ever starts. Where you're going to get your practices in to make sure that when you get to game week, it's not the first time they're hearing it. Now you're doing that, but you also understand that there's going to be attrition throughout the season, and you can't quite put all the pieces exactly where they're going to be, but at least everybody's starting to install the defense.
You weren't lying about the injury report in the offensive line. How do you mix and match, or what can you do in practice this week? Sure,
we started last night. Not only are Derek and Dorian, questionable for the game, they're also our first and third team centers. And a guy like Chris Muller is our second team center. So when all three of those guys are in the game, and something like this happens, now we got to start to make sure we're training other people, and we started that process last night, and we'll make a decision tomorrow when we see the health of some of these guys as to who's going to take the reps in practice. But putting the right guy at center is the first priority, and then we'll put the pieces together at guard and tackle.
Kyle, given the things that happened in Paris on Friday and then all over the world, for however long a time, what's it mean just to go up and play at Army and just the whole setting and what they represent?
I've always been in favor of playing the academies when possible, and we've got a long tradition here of competing against Army and Navy, and I think it serves a couple purposes. One, I think it's regional football, and I think that's good, but I think the other part of it is it gives us an opportunity to kind of pay our respects to those young men that are playing on their football teams. Because I worked with a guy one time, Brian Bassard, who had worked at Army, and then after that we had worked together, and he said to me, he said, what you got to remember is when they go to practice, it's the easiest part of their day. And when you put it in that kind of perspective, it really tells you a lot about the quality of the people that you're going to be competing against. It's a tremendous honor to go up there to West Point. This will be my third trip up there.
You guys have had success in the past against triple option offenses. What do you think the key is to that for you guys?
There's a couple things you have to do to be successful in defending this offense. The first one is you got to be very disciplined with the way you play defense, because they're going to challenge you on every play in three phases: the dive, the quarterback, and the pitch. You can't. I told the team yesterday, don't get bored tackling the fullback, because the minute you stop tackling that fullback is when he'll rip off a big run in the game. And you got to be sound schematically, and I give a lot of that credit to Coach Rossi and Coach Frazier for making sure that we've got the right numbers. It's not just one guy on the dive and one guy on the quarterback and one guy on the pitch. It's a little bit more involved than that, and they do an excellent job of getting the players ready to make sure we've got the right numbers at the point of attack.
And obviously you saw Navy last year. How similar or different is what their attack to what Navy does?
Very similar. Both coaches from the same tree. I think the systems are very similar, and what you also find is they will use certain packages of their offense against certain defensive structures.
Kind of piggyback off that, do you have like a standard playbook to kind of like defend a triple option scheme, and is it something that you even like install like during the summer or spring just to kind of get the team ready for it?
When we've played them earlier in the year, it's something we have done in the spring. We didn't do it last spring. We do have a package that we play that is different than our normal defensive package.
Chaffee's questionable on this injury report too. It seems like, as the only veteran back there, it seems like he's constantly helping the young guys move around. If you lose him, how big a loss is that? And then who, with no other veterans back there, who's the most advanced that would take on that role?
Yeah, it's some of the stuff we're working through right now. I don't have a final answer on that just yet. But Anthony's a playmaker, and I think he's got 4 interceptions on the year, and had another one last weekend. And You know, he is the lone veteran voice back there, and the other guys are going to have to pick up the slack. The difference, I think, this week would be the defense was going to be different anyway in terms of how we'll play. So, you know, there's going to be a couple people in different spots.
Kyle, with the triple option being the featured offense for Army, is this an opportunity for your young secondary to have a little bit of a break against the pass this week?
Well, you could think of it like that, but then when you look at the receivers from Army and you see that they're averaging, I think, over 17 yards of reception, I don't think so. I don't think there's ever a break. This is different because you need to have the discipline of keeping your eyes on your man when we're in man coverage or your eyes in the right place when we're in zone, because even though they may not throw it as much, when they throw it, they're getting chunks.
Army's defense, are they unique as well?
Army's defense is a little bit more conventional. They're very similar now. They're very similar to what Navy does, although I don't know if there's a connection between the two coordinators. They're a 3-4 personnel with some 4-down fronts in terms of how they play, a significant amount of pressure, probably more pressure than Navy would give you traditionally, but not completely unique the way they used to be when Coach Ellerson was there. They ran that bear flex defense. That was very unique.
Kyle, what would you like to see out of PJ this week as he continues to get healthy and his role's changing a little bit?
I feel good about PJ. I think PJ is going to be ready to go this week, and he'll be back out there, and that's exciting because, again, he's always been a guy who can make explosive plays in the run game, and I think he's back ready to do that now.
Obviously the injuries are probably going to dictate this a little too, and I know you're trying to win every game, but anything for the last 2 games in terms of playing, maybe getting a longer look at some of the younger guys, Pateki or Owens or anything like that? Will you focus any different in terms of getting a longer look for the future for some of the young guys?
Yeah, John got a pretty significant amount of playing time last week, you know, and he's getting better. He's been playing on 3rd down for a while, got some 1st and 2nd down snaps in the game. You know, John's an exciting guy, you know, but in terms of going outside of our normal rotations, no. You know, we're going to do everything we can this week to be 1-0, and that's the most important thing to us, and that's how we'll make all the decisions. Thank you.